I'm Teisha with Shalom TV's news update for Thursday, April the 10th, 2014. Israeli and Palestinian negotiators reportedly met earlier today, along with mediator U.S. Special Peace Envoy Martin Indyk. While not confirming that such a meeting was set to take place today, last night U.S. State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki noted that meetings between the two parties were continuing. She said they are engaging in serious and intensive efforts to find a way out of the current impasse. And last night, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry welcomed Israel's Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman to Washington. The two met at the State Department over a number of issues, including the stalled peace efforts. Ahead of the meeting, the two addressed a press conference where Kerry said that they would work hard to try and find a way out of the stalemate, and reaffirmed his commitment to the U.S.-Israel bond.
I'm very happy that the foreign minister is here today. This is an important time. The issues between us are of concern to both of us, are of enormous importance. And I want to affirm this. Our relationship with Israel, as everybody knows, is an historic and deep one. We remain totally committed to the security of Israel. We have a friendship that is, I believe, a bond that's unbreakable. And I'm really happy to have the foreign minister here at this important time. Thank you. Obviously, we are working hard to try to find a way forward. Both parties indicate they would like to find a way to go forward in the talks. We obviously want to see that happen. We think it's important for them and for the region. So we will, needless to say, talk about that.
Lieberman thanked Kerry for his efforts and stressed that Israel was ready to make peace. He said, "We're in the midst of a very crucial process. You and us have the same desire to achieve a comprehensive solution, to achieve final status agreement." Lieberman said, "We're ready to sacrifice a lot for this goal." He added that Israel has done a lot already to prove their willingness to achieve real peace with their neighbors, noting agreements signed with Egypt and Jordan. Lieberman said, "We gave up territories 3.5 times more than our territory today, Sinai, half of Judea, Samaria, Gaza Strip, and I think that we are looking for the same positive approach from the other side." The foreign minister added that any unilateral steps, apparently referring to the Palestinians' recent applications for membership into 15 international bodies and treaties, only undermine these efforts. Following the meeting last night between Kerry and Lieberman, State Department spokesperson Jen Psaki said that the leaders had discussed the full range of issues in the U.S.-Israel relationship, including the current state of peace efforts, where she said that Kerry stressed the importance of, quote, both sides taking steps that contribute to an environment conducive for peace. Kerry and Lieberman also discussed other security and regional issues, including Iran and Syria. The meeting between the two leaders comes after Kerry's comments to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee yesterday, where when he was asked about the breakdown in peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians, while acknowledging that both sides had taken unhelpful steps in getting to the current situation, Kerry seemed to point at Israel's not releasing the fourth batch of Palestinian security prisoners and then announcing building plans over the Green Line in Jerusalem as what he referred to as the moment that began the crisis. While Israel didn't officially respond to Kerry's comments, the feeling was that Kerry was suggesting in his remarks that Israel was to blame, something spokesperson Jen Psaki was quick to sort out. She told reporters yesterday that Kerry does not believe one side deserves blame over the other, and that he was simply restating the chronology of events that took place last week. Meanwhile, the Jerusalem Post reports today that according to sources in Jerusalem, Israel has now presented the Palestinians with a new deal to extend peace talks beyond the April 29th deadline. A diplomatic source told Jerusalem Post that, quote, if the Palestinian Authority agrees to stop its plans to join a number of international treaties and conventions, Israel will agree to a new prisoner release package in return for the continuation of negotiations until the end of the year at a minimum. The Post also cited sources saying that the United States mediator expressed to Israel that the possible release of convicted Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard is still something the U.S. administration might consider if such a deal is reached between Israel and the Palestinians. There has been no official word from the U.S. or Israel on this reported new possible deal. The Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas met yesterday in Cairo with the Arab League, where he updated them about the current state of peace efforts. The Jerusalem Post reports that following that meeting, Abbas said today that he was willing to extend peace talks with Israel beyond the April 29th deadline on the, quote, basis that the fundamentals bring to the founding of a Palestinian state whose capital is East Jerusalem, something the Arab League foreign ministers had reportedly given their approval of. The League also called upon Israel to release the fourth round of Palestinian security prisoners. Abbas spoke about his meeting in Cairo in an interview with London-based newspaper Asharq al-Awsat, where he also said that his application to the 15 international bodies, which Israel called a violation of their agreement with the PA, was in the interest of the Palestinian people and had nothing to do with Israel. Abbas also urged the League to provide financial assistance to the PA and to continue to support his stance in refusing to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. A rocket was fired at Israel yesterday evening. The mortar rocket was launched from the Gaza Strip and landed near a swimming pool of a kibbutz in the Sha'ar HaNegev Regional Council. There was some damage caused, but no injuries were reported. And further unrest along the Gaza border. This morning, 140 Palestinians crossed into a closed military zone near the Erez border crossing between Israel and Gaza in an apparent demonstration march. IDF forces ordered the group to stop their approach towards the border fence with Israel and leave the area. However, the group ignored the calls and warnings, and IDF soldiers fired at the legs of some of those who continued to approach the fence. Palestinian media reported that 2 of the demonstrators were lightly injured. And a little later in the day, the IDF said that mortar shells were fired at IDF forces who were patrolling the same area, emanating from Gaza. The IDF returned fire. No injuries were reported there. The Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations called for the renewal of efforts to free jailed Jewish American Alan Gross. The call follows Gross's decision to begin a hunger strike in the Cuban jail, where he has been imprisoned for the last 4 years, as we reported to you earlier this week. Gross said that he was taking up the hunger strike to protest his treatment by both the Cuban and U.S. governments regarding their lack of any real effort to resolve his ordeal and any mistruths regarding the ordeal. Conference leaders Chairman Robert Sugarman and CEO Malcolm Hoenlein called on both governments yesterday to renew talks about Gross's situation immediately in order to gain his release. Sugarman and Hoenlein said, "We have long advocated for Mr. Gross's release, including at meetings with U.S. and Cuban officials, but to no avail." They said, "We believe that his case has not been given the urgent attention it warrants." They said the U.S. government has a special responsibility to Gross, who was working as a U.S. government contractor in Cuba when he was arrested in 2009 for providing computer and internet access to the Jewish community there. Alan Gross was sentenced to 15 years in prison in Cuba for crimes against the state. A new satellite was launched into space late last night in Israel, which is said to bolster the country's ability to keep tabs on possible threats. The Ofek 10 was launched by the Defense Ministry and Israeli Aircraft Industries from the Palmachim Air Base. It uses radar systems for observation. Israel Aerospace Industries' Ofer Doron said the remote sensing lightweight satellite is expected to improve Israel's reconnaissance abilities by providing sharp images even in poor weather conditions or in the dark. Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon said that Ofek 10 would enable the security establishment to better deal with threats near and far at all hours of the day and in any weather. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Thursday, April the 10th, Beginning at 7, more coverage from the recent Jerusalem Post conference held at the Marriott Marquis in Times Square, New York City. Some of those featured tonight will include IDF Admiral Eliezer Marom, U.S. Senator Robert Menendez, Deputy Managing Editor of the Jerusalem Post, Carolyn Glick. And then former Soviet refusenik and hero of the Soviet Jewry movement, Yosef Mendelevich, joins Mark Golub tonight on L'chaim. That's at 9 o'clock. That's all coming up tonight here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Thursday, April the 10th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.